The alien market begins. The sun never shined in the alien market. It was always covered with dark clouds, thick smoke, and strange glowing lights. The market was hidden under a giant metal dome on a forgotten planet where laws meant nothing, and creatures from every corner of the galaxy came to trade. They traded tools, weapons, animals, and sometimes even living beings. In the center of the market was a big iron cage. Inside it sat a young alien girl. She had silver skin, white hair that touched her back, and big glowing blue eyes. Her ears were long and sharp like blades. She was completely naked, except for a dirty cloth someone had thrown at her. Her arms were wrapped around her knees, her head down. She looked small, cold, and scared. People passed by. Some laughed, some pointed fingers. Others called her useless, weak, or broken. No one wanted her. No one asked where she came from. She was just another item to sell cheap and forgotten. The alien seller shouted, "1 unit of pure DNA. Young, healthy, just ... Needs some training." No one raised a hand. Not even one. The crowd moved on to shinier thing-stalking weapons, glowing pets, and rare spices that danced in the air. But the girl remained, still and silent, her eyes watching everything. She didn't cry, not anymore. She had cried on the first day when her chains were taken off and she was thrown into the cage. But now her tears were dry and her heart was tired. Then someone new entered the market. A human. He wore a long brown coat, dusty boots, and a calm face. No one noticed him at first. Humans were rare in this part of the galaxy. Some traders watched him with curiosity, others with suspicion. He walked slowly, his eyes moving from stall to stall. He didn't speak, he didn't stop. Not until he reached the iron cage. There, he paused. He looked at the girl. She looked back at him, surprised. He wasn't laughing. He wasn't ignoring her. He was just ... watching. Their eyes locked. The seller noticed. "Ah, a good choice, human, very cheap. You won't find another like her." The human didn't answer. The girl looked at him with fear and hope mixed together. Was he going to take her, use her, hurt her like the others? But he said nothing. Minutes passed. The seller grew impatient. "You want her or not?" Still, the human stayed silent. Then, without a word, he reached into his coat and pulled out something small and shiny. An old earth coin, gold, rare, worth more than the girl. He placed it on the seller's table. "Done?" the human asked. The seller's eyes widened. "Yes, of course, yours now." He unlocked the cage. The girl did not move. She stayed curled in the corner, shaking. She didn't trust him, the human. Didn't force her. He didn't shout. He simply took off his coat and held it out. "Take this," he said quietly. She looked at the coat, then at him. Slowly, she reached out and grabbed it. She wrapped it around her small body. It was warm. It smelled like dust, wind, and something safe. He offered his hand. She stared at it for a long time. Then she stood up slowly, weakly, and took it. The crowd stared in shock. Whispers spread. Why would a human waste gold on her? What is he planning? She's just trash. But the human didn't care. He began to walk away, holding her hand gently. Before they could leave the market, 3 tall alien guards blocked their path. One of them said in a deep voice, "You can't take her. She's not cleared for off-world travel." The human looked up, calm as ever. "She's mine now. I paid. She was never legal, the guard replied. Return her or leave without her. The girl gripped his hand tighter. The human didn't move. His voice was soft, but firm. If you stop me, ... I'll speak to the Galactic Board and show them what you've been selling behind closed doors. The guards looked at each other. They knew what he meant. After a tense moment, they stepped aside. The human and the girl walked out of the market one step at a time till the darkness faded behind them. She looked up at him again. Why? She whispered. He didn't answer. He just kept walking, a price not measured in coinster. Wind outside the alien market was colder than she remembered. Her bare feet touched the rough stone ground, but she didn't complain. The human's coat wrapped around her small body like armor. It was the first time something had protected her. They walked through the back alleys of the market world. No one followed them, but eyes were watching, always watching. The girl held tightly to the human's hand. She didn't know his name. She didn't even know what he truly wanted. But for now, he hadn't hurt her. That alone was more kindness than she had known in years. He stopped near a quiet landing area, where ships of different shapes rested in silence. His own ship was small-owed, scratched, but strong. It looked like him. He turned to her. "Ah, you hungry?" She nodded. He opened the door and guided her in. Inside, the ship was warm, clean, a place with no chains, no cages. He sat her down and brought food. It wasn't much, some soft bread, warm broth, but her eyes widened as if it were a feast. She ate slowly at first, unsure if it was a trick, but when she finished the bowl, no slap came, no shout, just silence. "More?" he asked. She nodded again. He gave her more. Then he sat across from her and watched. Not in a scary way, just curious, like she was a puzzle he didn't want to force open. "What's your name?" he asked gently. She looked down. "I don't remember." He didn't ask again. "Then I'll call you Rain," he said. She looked up. "Why rain?" "Because it washes away the dust," he said. For a moment, she felt something warm in her chest. She was not trash. She was rain later. As the ship lifted into the sky, she sat near the window. She watched the alien market become smaller and smaller until it was just a dot in the black sky. She didn't miss it. She didn't even look back. But as the stars moved past, her mind went to the other girls, the other cages, the broken ones who were never chosen. "Why me?" she asked suddenly. The human was standing near the controls. He didn't turn around. His voice was quiet. "You looked at me, ... and didn't look away." Rain stayed quiet. For a while, that was true. When others mocked her, she lowered her eyes. When the human came, she had met his gaze. She was scared, but she looked anyway, and maybe that changed everything. Later that night, she tried to sleep in a soft bed. For the first time, she couldn't. The silence was too loud. The softness made her feel weak. She lay awake, her eyes open in the dark. She heard the human moving nearby. She got up and walked toward him. He was fixing something in the engine room. His hands were dirty. His face was calm. "Can I stay here?" she asked. Standing in the doorway, he nodded. "Of course." She sat on the floor beside him, her knees pulled to her chest. "You didn't really pay for me," she said softly. He paused. "What do you mean? You gave a gold coin." "But I'm not worth that much." The human looked at her finally, fully. "You're right," he said. Her chest tightened. He continued, "You're worth more." Rain stared at him. He returned to fixing the engine. Then why did no one else want me? She asked. The human didn't speak right away. Then he said, because they only saw what you were, not who you are. Rain didn't understand it fully, but it stayed in her heart like a glowing stone. The next day, the ship passed through a soft blue nebula. She watched it with wide eyes, amazed. Her old world was full of cages and smoke. This one was full of stars and open doors, and still questions floated inside her. Where are we going? She asked. To a place where no one owns anyone, he replied. She blinked. Does such a place exist? He nodded. It does. If we build it. A deal beyond the rules. The next few days passed like a dream for Rain. Every moment felt strange but safe. There were no chains, no loud voices, no cold floors, only silence, warm lights, and the quiet hum of the ship as it moved through the stars. The human, who still hadn't told her his name, spoke very little. But when he did, his words were gentle, never sharp. He showed her where food was kept, how the shower worked, where she could rest. He never touched her without asking, never raised his voice. He gave her space. She didn't know how to trust that. One morning, while she was watching space through the window, he sat beside her. I have a job to finish, he said. She looked at him. What kind of job? I have to return to a planet called Varian, he said. But it's not safe. You can stay on the ship if you want. Rain didn't speak. Her hands clenched. She didn't want to be left alone again. I'll come with you, she said quietly. He looked at her for a moment. All right. Varian was different from the market planet. It was bright, clean, and full of tall buildings and strong laws. But it had something else, two deep secrets hidden beneath its shining surface as they landed. The human handed Rain a small cloak to cover herself. This place doesn't like questions, he said. They walked through narrow streets. People stared, some whispered. Rain could feel that something was wrong. They entered a building with silver walls and glowing signs. Inside was a tall alien official with hard eyes. You shouldn't be here, the official said to the human. You've already caused trouble at the black market. I came to return what was stolen, the human replied calmly. Rain stood behind him, confused. The official leaned forward. You took a girl that wasn't legally for sale. That alone is a crime. She was abandoned, the human said. That doesn't matter, the alien snapped. There are rules. Ownership papers, trade laws, even slaves must be registered. Rain's chest tightened. The words hit her like rocks. I'm not a thing, she said. The room went silent. The official looked at her in surprise. She speaks, he muttered. The human stepped forward. She's not a product. She's a person, and I'm filing for her release under the Free Refugee Protection Act. The official laughed coldly. That law was banned 5 years ago. The human didn't flinch. He pulled out a small device and placed it on the desk. A screen lit up. It showed secret footage from the market cages, chains, screaming children. The official's face went pale. Where did you get this? He asked. Does it matter? The human replied. If you stop me, I send it to the Galactic Ethics Council. Rain watched, amazed. He wasn't yelling, he wasn't fighting. He was simply calm. But every word was like a weapon, the official sighed. Fine, take her, but don't come back. As they walked out of the building, Rain asked, why did you do that? Because rules can be used to hurt people, he said, but they can also be used to protect them. You just have to know how to play the game. Rain was quiet for a moment. You didn't have to fight for me. He looked at her and said, I didn't fight. I bargained. She smiled, just a little. That night, back on the ship, Rain asked, What's your name? The human hesitated, then said, Callan. Thank you, Callan, she whispered. He nodded. You don't owe me anything. I know, she said. But I still thank you. She looked out the window, watching stars dance again. But this time, something inside her felt stronger like. She had a voice, and it mattered. As she fell asleep that night, a question echoed in her head. What if she wasn't just free now? What if she could become something more? Learning to walk again, Rain woke up to the sound of humming lights and the gentle vibration of the ship's engine. She had slept through the night for the first time in years. The bed was soft, the blanket warm, but she didn't feel like she belonged in comfort yet. She sat up slowly, her body still remembering the cold floors of cages, the sharp voices, the beatings that followed rest. But here, there was only silence. She stepped out of the room, her bare feet touching the warm metal floor. She found Callan at the front of the ship, looking out at a distant star system. He turned his head slightly. You slept well, Rain? Nodded. He smiled. Good. A moment of quiet passed. Then he said, Would you like to help me with repairs today? She hesitated. I don't know how. I'll teach you, he replied. In the engine room, Callan handed her a small tool. It was smooth and cold, with blinking lights. Start by tightening these bolts here, he said, pointing to a large metal plate. Rain followed his instructions, her hands shaking. She was afraid to do it wrong, but he didn't rush her. He didn't scold her every time she made a mistake. He simply said, Try again. Hours passed. By evening, her hands were smudged with oil. Her face had tiny sparks of grease. But for the first time in her life, she smiled just a little. You did good, Callan said. Rain looked at him. No one has ever said that to me. Before, he didn't reply, but his eyes said everything. That night, she ate dinner slowly, trying not to spill. Callan told her stories about Earth, about the stars, about places she couldn't even imagine. He told her that once, he had been lost too. What changed? She asked. Someone helped me, he said, when I was broken. Rain looked at him. Then why don't you tell me more about them? He looked away for a moment, then said softly, because they didn't survive. Rain didn't ask more. She saw the pain behind his eyes. But now, she understood something. Callan had lost, too. He wasn't just a rescuer. He was healing by helping her. They were both learning to walk again. The next morning, Rain stood in front of a mirror in the small bathroom. She looked at herself, freely looked. Her skin was healing. The bruises were fading. Her eyes were no longer filled with fear. She touched her cheek. I'm still here. She whispered. She opened a drawer and found clean clothes. She changed, brushed her white hair, and walked to the bridge of the ship. Callan turned and saw her. You look stronger, he said. She nodded. I feel ... different. You're becoming who you were meant to be. She sat beside him. Where are we going now? She asked. There's a small moon nearby, he said. A quiet place. I want to show you something. They landed on the moon just before nightfall. The sky was filled with purple clouds and 2 glowing moons. The ground was soft, covered in blue grass that glowed faintly in the dark. Rain stepped outside and took a deep breath. The air was cool and clean. This place is beautiful, she said. I come here when I need to think, Callan replied. They sat under the stars. Callan, she asked. Yes. Do you think I can become strong? Not just survive, but fight back one day. He looked at her. You already are strong, but if you want to learn more, I'll train you. Rain nodded slowly. I want to help others, like me, the ones still trapped. Callan's voice was quiet. Then we'll start tomorrow. And for the first time, she didn't feel like a victim. She felt like a student, a fighter, someone with a reason to move forward. Training the broken flame, the sun on the small moon rose slowly, lighting the blue grass with soft gold. Rain stood outside the ship, barefoot, calm, and ready. She wasn't the same girl who once sat naked in a cage, afraid of every sound. She was still scared, but now she had something else inside her too. Fire. Callan stood a few steps away. He held 2 wooden training staffs. This will hurt, he said softly. You sure? Rain nodded. I want to learn. He handed her one of the staffs. At first, it felt too heavy. Her hands shook as she held it. Callan showed her how to stand, how to move her feet, how to keep balance. They trained every morning. Rain fell many times. The staff bruised her arms and legs. Her body ached. Her muscles screamed. But she didn't stop. Not once. Each time she fell, she got back up. Again, she whispered, show me again. Callan never praised her too early. But every now and then, he gave her a small nod, and her heart lit up like a star. Between the training, he taught her other things, to how to fix parts of the ship, how to read the basic symbols of star maps, how to speak in trade language. Rain learned quickly, like a sponge that had been dry for years. She was finally soaking in everything, but the pain never left. At night, she still woke up, sweating, heart racing. Her dreams were full of cages, chains, and cold hands. One night, she sat outside the ship, staring at the moonlight. Callan came and sat beside her. You okay? He asked. She didn't answer right away. Then she whispered, I feel like I'm made of pieces, and they don't fit. Callan was quiet. Then he picked up a stone and showed it to her. It had a deep crack down the middle. This was once broken, he said. But look now, it holds the light better than the others. She stared at the glowing crack. You don't need to be perfect, he continued. You just need to keep going. Tears filled Rain's eyes, but she didn't let them fall. She nodded. I'll keep going. As the days passed, her strength grew. She could now swing the staff like lightning, defend herself against sudden attacks, and even outsmart Callan in small drills. But one day, while training, something changed. She moved too fast, swung too wide, and hit Callan's shoulder hard. He stepped back, surprised. The staff fell from her hands. I didn't mean to, she said quickly. He looked at her with calm eyes. Don't apologize for getting stronger. Rain froze. That's when she realized he wasn't afraid of her power. He respected it. Later that evening, a message came through the ship's old comm system. A broken signal, static. Then a voice, request. Help, children, market, return. Rain's blood turned cold. She looked at Callan. Was that? He nodded. It's from the old market system. Someone's sending a distress call. Rain stood up. Her hands shook not from fear, but from something else. Anger, double quotes CALEN, she said. We have to go back. He looked at her for a long moment. Are you sure? He asked. They left me behind, she said. Now I want to go back and get the others. Callan didn't argue. He walked to the control panel. We leave at dawn. Rain stood silently, the moonlight glowing on her skin. She was no longer just a survivor, no longer just a rescued soul. She was a flame, and she was ready to burn the darkness away. Back to the pit, the ship sliced through the stars like a quiet knife. Inside, Rain sat in silence, her hands resting on her knees, her eyes locked on the front window. Each star they passed brought her closer to the place she never thought she'd return to, the alien market, the pit. She had once been tossed there, like trash, sold, mocked, forgotten, but now she was returning with purpose and a voice. Callan sat beside her, his fingers moving over the controls. "We land in 10 minutes, he said. Rain nodded, but didn't speak. Her heart pounded, her body remembered the pain, the fear, the cold metal bars, the smell of sweat and hopelessness. But she wasn't the same girl anymore. She was fire. She stood up and walked to the gear room. Inside, she pulled on a light combat suit, black, simple, flexible. Over it, she wore a soft grey cloak that covered her body. Her staff hung on her back like a shadow. Callan glanced at her and smiled slightly. "You look ready." "I am," she replied. They landed on the far side of the market where the guards didn't patrol. Rain knew every hidden path, every dark corner. She led the way. The market hadn't changed. The smoke still hung in the air. The crowds still shouted. The sellers still offered strange creatures in cages. The same wooden stalls, the same chains. But this time, people looked at her differently. They didn't see weakness. They saw strength. Rain walked past them all, her eyes sharp, her steps steady. Callan followed behind, silent but alert. They reached the center of the market where the worst cages were kept. That's when she saw them. 3 young girls, 2 boys, all locked behind rusted bars. Their eyes were wide with fear, just like hers had been. Rain's chest tightened. One of the girls saw her and whispered something. To the others, they pressed their faces to the bars. Rain stepped forward and spoke, loud and clear. "No one owns you." The crowd froze. The sellers turned. Someone shouted, "It's her, the one who escaped." A loud alarm blared. Guards began to rush in. Callan stepped forward, his weapon ready. Rain didn't back down. She moved toward the cage, her staff spinning. In her hands, a guard lunged. She ducked, twisted, and struck his leg. He fell hard. Another tried to grab her. She smashed the end of the staff into his chest. The crowd gasped. She wasn't a victim. She was a storm. More guards appeared. Callan fought beside her. He covered her back, cleared the path, and watched her every move. Rain reached the cage and used her tool to break the lock. The door opened. The children stared at her in shock. "You're free," she said gently. "Come with me." They stepped out slowly, unsure, but their eyes were full of hope. Rain turned, and then a familiar voice cut through the air. "Look who found her strength." From the shadows stepped the old market master. His eyes were cruel, his smile cold. "I remember you," he said. "You were quiet, weak, naked, and shivering. You cried like a baby." Rain didn't flinch. "And now you're pretending to be a hero," he sneered. "Let's see how long that lasts." He clapped his hands. More guards appeared, bigger, stronger. Callan stepped in front of the children. Rain stepped forward. "No more cages," she said. The market master laughed. "You really think you can fight the whole system?" Rain gripped her staff. "I don't need to fight the system. she said. Just you. And then she moved. The battle was fast and brutal. Rain used every move Callan had taught her. Her staff flew like lightning. Her feet moved like wind. The children watched in awe as the girl who had once been one of them fought like she was. Born for it, the market shook with panic. Traders ran, chains fell. The master tried to escape, but Callan blocked. Rain struck the final blow. The staff cracked across the master's chest. He fell hard. The guards didn't rise again. Rain stood tall in the middle of the wreckage, breathing heavy, heart pounding. The children gathered around her. Callan walked over, nodding slowly. You did it. Rain didn't smile. I just started, she said. The one who stepped forward, the smoke from the alien market still floated in the sky behind them. But Rain didn't look back. She walked ahead, leading the children with quiet strength. Her staff strapped to her back, her shoulders steady. Followed close, guarding the rear, making sure no one was left behind. They reached the edge of the old landing zone where their ship waited, open and ready. One of the smaller girls looked up at Rain and asked, "Are we really free now?" Rain stopped. She turned, looked each of them in the eye, and said, "Yes, you are." Tears formed in some of the children's eyes. One boy couldn't stop staring at her. "You were like us, weren't you?" he asked. Rain nodded slowly. "Yes, I was just like you. They locked me in a cage. They told me I was worthless." She knelt beside them, but they were wrong. The children leaned in closer. "You were not broken," Rain said. "You were just waiting for someone to see you." A long silence followed. Then one of the girls whispered, "You saw us." Rain's throat tightened. She nodded back on the ship. Rain helped them eat, sleep, and feel safe. She told them simple stories, not of monsters and fear, but of stars and kindness. They listened with wide eyes. Callan watched her from the corner. He didn't say much, but the pride in his eyes said everything. Later, when the children slept, Rain sat near the ship's window, again where she had once stared in silence. Unsure of her place in the world, Callan sat beside her. "You did more than save them," he said. "You gave them a reason to believe." Rain looked at him. "Why? Did you save me that day?" she asked. Callan leaned back in his chair. "You were the only one who didn't look away." Rain smiled softly. "And you were the only one who stepped forward." He smiled too. It was worth it. The next morning, the ship landed on a peaceful, green planet, a place where survivors were welcomed and protected. Rain and Callan spoke to local leaders and arranged homes for the children. But when it came time to say goodbye, none of them wanted to let go. "Will you stay with us?" a boy asked. Rain touched his cheek gently. "No," she said, "but I'll come back, and I'll keep fighting for others like you, until no child is ever locked up again." The children hugged her tightly, and then she turned away, boarded the ship with Callan, and left the planet behind. Many seasons passed. Whispers of a girl with silver skin and a fire in her eyes spread across the galaxy. They said she broke cages with her hands. They said she led an army of survivors. They said she spoke for those who had no voice. And in every story, they remembered one name, Rain Dot, the girl who was once left naked and unwanted at an alien market, had become the spark that changed everything. And at her side always was the one who stepped forward when no one else did.